Hi, this is Jordan. We're doing an interview with one of the developers of the MMO Salem, and I'll let him introduce himself. So, who are you, good sir?
I am Marp Tarpton. I am the creative director for this current project with Mortal Moments, the company that has acquired Salem the game.
Cool. This game is changed management. So, why, why did that happen?
Well, it didn't just change management, it changed ownership. It was being made by Paradox Interactive in conjunction with Sea Tribe Games. And after a period of inactivity insofar as development and releases of patches were concerned, our company sought to take over the project, and so we did. We um, took over as lead developers.
Cool. Why did you feel compelled to choose to take over this game specifically?
Well, there's not. Our reasons are vary, but the reason of the lead developer is that there's no other game like Salem offered. And I don't think there ever has been, and we're fairly confident there never will be again. It's a game that where what you do in the world lasts. Like, it has an effect on even the landscape, building things, killing other players with permadeath and PvP, open PvP. Um, and the level of advancement is different too. It's not just like levels, like in other MMOs. It's more skill based and more you can do everything if you wanted to, or you can focus on one particular thing and get really good at it.
Hmm. So every player has a chance to impact the world. You could build a building and it could stay there for a long time for everyone else
Yes,
to see.
yes. And I mean the individual experience is a little, hopefully, often more impactful than that, than just like leaving a building. But yes, in its most basic terms, every player who builds, who even generates a lean-to, the homestead structure, that is a lasting structure in the world that other players will pass when they cross the area, or can steal from if they have invested the time and energies into getting that particular black skill. Um, so just at its most basic level, that is the level of persistence that players can offer to the game world, and that the game can offer to people who want to play it.
Hmm. How many people do you have working on this game right now in your team?
The numbers actually fluctuate. We do a lot of commission work regarding art and sound and things of that nature. So there are about, at any time, 2 to 5 of us,
Okay.
and but there is a core team that makes up the developing side of it, and everybody has their own skill set, and everyone has their own projects that they're working on to further the game until its inevitable launch.
All right. Um, Notice that there are a lot of Cthulhu Easter eggs in this game. Is that by one person who really likes it, or does everyone on the team really enjoy H.P. Lovecraft's work?
Well, the developer who began Salem really tried to promote it as a Lovecraftian new world
Hmm.
creation, and then it I think it grew organically from there. But I wasn't part of alpha or the planning stages of the first, development team or anything
Right.
like that. This is just what I've heard, and I think that kind of evolved, and the promise of it was what drew a lot of early players to the game. Since then, there haven't been as much advancements in the way um of that particular like subset of Easter eggs, as you called it.
Right.
And I don't really like. I mean, it is, of course, there are Easter eggs. I can show you a couple.
I
Pretty.
saw the Donnie Darko mask.
Yeah, the bunny
Bunny
Darko.
Darko.
It's that, but yeah, but things like that. Um, and our ability to implement them really give the game a certain flavor, and I think that the players appreciate it, and particularly with Lovecraft and other references in the game, it's less of an Easter egg in my opinion, and more of inspiration
Okay.
for not just from my end from the development side of it, but also for the play style and anybody who wants to role play or role play on the forums. Not that that's a huge part of the community, but it still sets the tone while playing the game, and sometimes that helps mitigate some of the grindy feel that an MMO or any game of this nature can sometimes bring to the table.
It does add to the world. It makes it feel like there's something more. Like there's some lore behind everything.
Right, and that's the idea, and that's why I initially came onto the project, or at least what I was initially doing was focusing on lore and seeing how we could develop it to give Salem some narrative. And I continue to work on that, and we continue to think about it and try to develop that. Well, at this, like to give it basically a history, which can sometimes really be a challenge since it's supposed to be set in like this 15 to 1700s kind of timetable, where we have to try our best to keep certain elements period appropriate.
Right.
But at the same time, we can take a lot of artistic license in conveying our vision to players.
You have a lot of leeway.
Yes, we have some leeway.
Oh, you just put on the Cthulhu mask?
Yes, this is the Cthulhu mask.
Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say.
It does that. It has an insanity effect. It's part of a game mechanic.
I didn't make
like
my
a month
save.
to put in.
I was gonna mention I saw when I was playing this artifact is called Old World Artifact, and I think the description is you should always respect those that came before you.
Yes.
And that item it really interested me, and I was like, I want to know more about these people who were here before us.
Right, yeah. Things like that. I don't remember. It has a different name, but things like that really set the tone. Like I said, for the world, like that there were people here before. For like this concept of lore, but it also, in a way, ties into the actual history of the colonies, and like the colony of Roanoke.
Yes. I love that history. I saw a play in North Carolina about that.
Right. So like they just went missing.
Yep.
So it's things like that that we like to play on, the mysteries, the lore, the folklore of the New World and New England and North America in general. Some of our, like, not some, but a lot of our creatures of the Lumberwoods are taken from these kind of mythologies that people don't know about, that aren't as popular. It's not Greek mythology. It's not something that they're well versed on or taught, and it's so rich, for lack of a better term, with like just a theme, that we can really just plug it without fear that anybody's plugged it before.
Not a lot of games focus on the history of America. I mean, like, they don't focus so much on the mysteries that, like, the first settlers had to deal with, like Roanoke and stuff like that.
Right.
I think it's really interesting and original.
Well, thank you. We like to think so too, and that's what the direction that we continue to aim toward, is that we don't want to make a game that you can find anywhere else, and we want to make a game that, even though only a small subset of the gaming community would enjoy, it is the game for them, and that's why we're trying to make the game for us, because we hope that they're like us.
Will there be more, like, as the game continues to develop because it's still in beta, will there be more, like, I don't want to say quests, but information that the player can gather about the societies that used to live here, or...
Like lore stuff?
Yeah, like lore.
Yes. I don't know how it's going to be implemented. I don't know how that information can be found, but we've talked about it before, and we do want players to have the ability to, whether through exploration or through advancement in level, not level, but the
The
skill levels,
proficiencies and
right?
yeah, the skills.
That they'll be able to stumble upon these just tidbits of information, and for the explorer archetype of player, that's just so invaluable, especially if it's a rare thing or if it's in some way randomized or some
Right.
I don't know, like personally I like to explore, so that would do it for me if I could go off into the wilderness and spend 2 hours searching and then find just a piece of the puzzle that potentially nobody had found before, or a piece of the collection that I can add to some
Yeah, and then you work with the
in-game book
community.
to
And,
put right
yeah.
exactly, or don't work with community, like try to
Hoard
find it
all
all
the
out for yourself.
information.
Right. And we did actually add in recently a mechanic, the coins.
I've
You
noticed
can
those. I've seen a couple of those.
those rusty coins.
Yeah.
Well, you can wash them, and then they clean up nicely, and then they reflect a year and the monarch at the time and the kind of coin it is, the denomination. So there are many coins that you can collect, and although that's not necessarily like lore, that reflects the style of hunting and exploration that we also want to add into the game among every other system that's already in place, just to give those players that extra incentive
Yeah,
to
the
continue
people
searching.
who like lore, will give them the lore.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Let them eat cake.
Exactly. What kind of game would you describe Salem as?
I would describe Salem as a permadeath crafting MMO.
Permadeath crafting MMO.
Particularly in that order. Probably, maybe an MMO featuring permadeath with crafting. That might be better, because it is a first and foremost a multiplayer experience. Without the multiplayer aspect to it, I don't think the game would be nearly as entertaining. It just that those other people add to the game so much, not only in just socialization, but in the risk
Oh yeah, they're terrifying. You have to run every time you see another player.
you don't have to, but sometimes it's wise. But yeah, like, so that sets a certain feeling for everything, and then there is the permadeath, which is so real. It is just, you don't experience that in other games nowadays,
Yeah.
especially like when you die,
You just respawn.
right, or
a
you
lot
get
of games don't do it anymore. Yeah.
yeah, right, or you get lives. You have
Yeah.
so many lives, but in this, you don't have so many lives. We do have the inheritance system, so that you can come back with a percentage if you've invested in that. With a percentage of your base stats, your kin, or
Your new
progeny.
character, yeah. Your progeny.
Yeah, your children, or whatever, however you want to put it, your heirs can inherit your land and a portion of your stats, but nonetheless, being at the risk to die,
You still
to have
lose
your
a
character
lot,
die.
yeah.
You lose a lot. You lose a lot of time. I don't know. It just, and I know that's like at the surface. Whenever I think about it, it's like, oh, that's not fun. It's not, but it is fun. It is, to
It
me.
adds a risk that most games don't have. There are consequences for your actions.
Exactly. Or inaction, or lack of planning,
yes.
or just dumb, bad luck.
Personally, I would also throw an adventure in there. I think it's an adventure type game.
I think that it is an adventure type game for some people, just like for some people it's an exploration game, or some people it's a griefing game. The adventure,
It's a lot of investment for griefing.
yes, it takes a lot of investment, but it's supposed to. That's the idea. That's one of our models that we're trying to push, is that griefing takes more work. If you want to do it, you're welcome to it, but it's going to cost you time or energy or effort.
It's all three.
Yeah, silver, it's going to cost you something. But What did you say that you would call Salem?
An adventure game.
An adventure game. I think that is a good assessment for me too. It is an adventure. It's your character or your characters. They tell a story that nobody else will have. They might have similar stories and like, yeah, I built a town. Yeah, I built a mine. Yeah, I was mining all day long. But your individual experiences will never be like any other player, no matter what.
That's a really elegant way of putting it.
Thank you.
Well, you kind of answered the question, but I'm gonna state it again. What does Salem have that other MMOs don't have?
It has a lot. It has a lot that other MMOs, at least that I've played, don't have. The first would be a persistent game world where I can make changes, and when I log on the next day, there's a good chance that they're still going to be there, unless somebody came by and toppled them over. And then everybody shares that game world. And I know other MMOs have it, but some of them certainly don't.
Yes, a lot of them don't. At least a lot of the ones I've played don't.
Right. The personal play area, which is what I'll call like your concept of claims and your homestead and your little chunk of the world that you mostly play in to go foraging and stuff. I don't feel like games have that in particular. Like if you do have a homestead or a home that you can go to and that you can customize, you can put up wallpaper and whatever, build your little things. You generally, it feels like you're instanced and you just get this little pocket.
That's
this
really
little
good
pocket
way of
server.
Thinking it. Really good way of saying it. I was trying to think of a way to describe that, but instance is a really good.
I think that, I don't remember if that's an actual term. I think it was something I picked up from my WoW days, but that's what it feels like. It's like you just get this little pocket and it's given to you, and it's got like sometimes literal walls that you can't go beyond. But Salem doesn't have that. Salem, technically, you can just go walk out into the wilderness and you can keep walking for hours and hours and hours until you finally find a spot that suits you. And if you don't like it after a month, you can pack up and you can abandon your claim or abandon your buildings, abandon everything, and move to a new spot. And that interconnectedness of the whole world, that anybody can then reach you no matter where you are by just walking to you, and compounded with the fact that they can then kill you or break your things, or that they can help you. You can make a friend. That makes the game all the more interesting. Let's see. We have other games have a market. I wouldn't say that that's exclusive to Salem, but we do have a market where players own stalls, and they can sell goods on their stalls. And there's there's a rent, and we keep trying to include more stalls into the game as there's demand for it, and it's kind of a courtesy it's kind of a luxury rather, that we are such a small community at the moment.
Eventually, you're gonna have to have a lot of stalls.
When that happens, like we have the ability to take it one day at a time, and if we were to get an influx of players tomorrow, or hopefully not tomorrow, but hopefully it happens over like a week or 2 weeks so we can prepare and plan. But we have the ability to change a lot of what we're doing and a lot of what we're moving toward as we approach the final release. So if that should happen, we can alter the way that we're doing things. And if there is an increased demand, we can alter the way that people get stalls. We can alter the marketplace. We can do whatever we need to so that we're satisfying the requirement of having some kind of economy going on in game. But that's just one example. Like if we got 1,000 players or 5,000 players or some big number to start playing tomorrow, and that number would continue to grow, we would have a lot of systems that we would need to re-examine. I would imagine.
That's interesting. What would you say the goal of the game is? Not the player's goal. Like, what would the end goal be? What are they trying to reach? Don't die.
The player's goal, player's goal will always change. And that's also like how we were talking about the adventure. You know, like it's different for everybody, and the experience is different for everybody. The end goal is also, I feel, unique to every player. Whether that player wants to, you know, they want to get a certain outfit that they saw in the trailer, or they want to build a certain building, or build a town with at least 5 people and see how long they can keep it running for, or whether they want to build a group of pirates who go and just kill people, or just take, you know, white clothes only, like knock them out and just take any white clothes they're wearing, and that's just what they do.
People.
So I would say, like, universally the goal is to survive, and we have that's a lot of what our the systems we have in place harken to with regard to protection and PvP. But the other goals that people might have that actually keep them playing are different, and they vary depending on playstyle. And that's a game again a thing about Salem, or a thing about any sandbox game that is so unique and so fun, and that keeps somebody like me, at least a gamer like me, playing it, because I set the pace, I set the tone, I set my story, and I can interact with the world the way I want to interact with it. And that's just completely invaluable, like, to have that functionality, that feature.
Yeah, a lot of games don't have. There's always an end goal that the people who make the games have in mind for each player, but it's good to hear that each one's just depending on however you want to play the game.
Right. No, 100%. Like, if you want to be a complete pacifist, I salute you and wish you the very best in what you do, and I want you to do that. If you want to raid everybody and kill all of them and take all of their things, I salute you. Good luck with doing that. Like, whatever you want to do it, you know, experience it. If you just want to build a little claim with 3 farm plots and maybe walls, like, you go right ahead. You try it, see if it works. Like, have fun. If you're having fun, if you're doing what you're doing and you're enjoying yourself, and you know, use the resources at your disposal to try to experience the game as well as you can, between the wiki and the forums and people like you.
Very useful.
Yes, yeah, the wiki is very well kept, and it's fantastic. We could never take the information that's in the wiki and put it into the game, and that's why in this game in particular, the wiki is such a great resource and tool for players to go back to and to use, because sometimes, honestly, I can't even remember everything about the game, and so I'll either ask the lead developer, I'll ask coworkers, or I'll look up in the wiki just to check, like, oh, what was this again? What was the ingredients in that? And then, you know, it's so convenient. I
always have the wiki open every time I'm playing.
Yeah, it's good. And I don't know, like, dual boxing or alt tabbing is a popular concept in this game, at least.
Yeah, almost necessary. How many players do you have right now playing?
I honestly don't, like, a current player total,
just
like right now in
approximately.
online.
Yeah.
I don't have an online count handy, but at this moment today, we've had an active users per day of 654 unique accounts.
Oh, unique accounts.
Right. And active users per week is 1,333, and per month is 2,759.
So you have a decent player base.
Yeah. I mean, for an indie game, I think that's still in development, still in
open beta. Yeah.
It's pretty good. But it's, you know, it could always be more. It could always be bigger. But considering that we haven't marketed the game, and it hasn't been marketed in a very long time, and these people are still coming in, and the players who have been here are still here, I think it speaks to the fact that this game is so good for a percentage of the gaming population.
Yes, it's a niche market. But...
Yeah, it totally is.
but that's not a bad thing.
And then those server stats we publish those. Those are on our forum
Okay.
on the top of the page because we like to let everybody know.
How do you feel personally about the permadeath genre?
Well, let's see. I don't think I've ever. No, I might have. I can't remember a good permadeath MMO that I've experienced.
The
Except
one
for
that comes to mind would be like Daisy.
yeah. If do you call Daisy an MMO?
I would not really.
But it is a
it's
good permadeath game.
Yeah.
For sure, definitely, hands down. And other like games like roguelike games that generally when you die forever, that I've experienced, but those are not anywhere near like this. And you know, a lot of times they're one player, they just don't have the persistence. But Daisy is really good. But again, there's nothing in my mind that compares to Salem with the ability of customization of your avatar, your little character, the customization of your little base, where you can build whatever shape base you want or put whatever buildings in it you want, and it all costs materials that you have to go farm in the world. So
and then you have to get your proficiencies up,
Right,
your
right.
skills.
But that wasn't your question.
No.
But I do like permadeath personally. Like as me as a player,
Yes.
I enjoy the risk. I enjoy losing. I enjoy dying.
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say they enjoy dying in a
Well,
permadeath
because
game.
if you look beyond, you know, that death, like of course that's terrible, and I might rage quit, and I might not log on for like a day, but after the fact, you know, like maybe a month after the fact, I can reflect and be like, yeah, it was good. I died. I learned this and this. Like, you know, I remember once I died in like for Daisy, for example,
Yep.
so I can start plugging Daisy,
Yeah, they'll
that
get
game
all
that I'm
over the
developing. I remember I fell out of like a window or something, and I broke my leg, and I think this was before I could fix it, like because it was, you know, it's obviously still being developed, and so I learned in that instance, like, oh, I can't do this certain thing on a ladder or I'll die. So I ended up killing myself by jumping out of a window again. But the lesson learned there was good enough so that, you know, days later when I continued to play again as a new character, I could avoid ladders, which were obviously
jumping out windows.
dangerous. But in Salem in particular, there is a little bit more leniency when you're being raided. You know, there's not necessarily a warning system, but there are ways to keep your character alive, even if your base falls. So, or the other way around too. If your character's caught out in the wilderness and you happen to inherit and you have an heir, your heir gets your base. So you can go.
So you don't necessarily have to start from complete scratch, just significantly less than what you were before.
Right. So it's not completely unforgiving, which is good in my opinion. It opens the market a little bit wider, I think, to players who aren't looking for that super risky situation. But at the same time, it's a terrible risk of loss.
Oh yes.
And that risk of loss to me is what keeps me playing this game.
And I would be very upset if I lost my character.
Well, hopefully, and here's the kicker. Hopefully, even though you're upset, even though you might not log back in for another week, if you were to lose your character, hopefully you would come back and you would try it again. That is the kind of player that we're looking for, not the kind of player that turns it off and never returns. We're hoping for the kind of player who experiences the loss, like experiences the terrible rage and sadness of what they no longer have, but then is able to reflect and say, you know what, that was a good game. I'm gonna load up another character, and this time I'm gonna be the raider, you know, or whatever mindset they approach with it, that they again want to still play the game because it's fun for them.
Is there a level cap for characters? Like, is there a certain level that they can get their proficiencies to? Do the skills ever stop?
The easy answer is I don't know. We don't like hard caps, so very few things in the game actually have hard caps that are advancing. You know, like advancement skills,
Right.
your humor's stats. So no, there's no real cap. There's no real hard cap, but there are soft caps, and I don't have the math or anything, but the way that you study for your proficiencies, for example, require inspiration.
Right.
You know, based on inspirationals, and so if you study all of them in the game once, and then you study them all again, it's double the cost of inspiration. So even if you were trying to focus on one particular thing, eventually you will.
Very hard.
Yes, it will get very, very difficult. And we have potions in the game to restore your inspiration pool, so you can totally make investments to stretch that soft cap out as far as it'll go. But I have to believe that mathematically, somewhere there is a cap that would be experienced for your skills, and so too for your stats, for your humors.
Yeah. When do you think the game will be out of beta?
Hopefully, and this is tentative, but hopefully we're looking before Q3 of 2015.
That's pretty soon.
It is. It's coming up pretty soon here, and we have a few more core systems that we're going to implement on the server. I'm sorry, on the forum. We have a roadmap, basically, where we've mapped out where our direction for development is going, and the big landmarks are all out of the way. There's a couple more left to go. We want to include animal husbandry, which will allow you to hopefully breed livestock and to harvest their resources and so on and so forth. The witchcraft mechanic, which needs to be finalized. There's going to be a new mining system implemented, and that is actually going to that's what we're dealing with right now for this and next month's, or this month's patch. And and there's a couple more little things that we're going to spruce in between, but after that it will leave beta and the first expedition will begin, and that will mark the game's launch.
Very cool. I'm glad to hear that it's coming out. Well, the expedition is coming out very soon.
Yes.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Only that this is a really great game, and even though you might die, it is still worth experiencing for no matter what playstyle a player might have. It's still worth giving it a try.
All right. Thank you very much. I definitely agree. I think everyone should at least give it a try. It's free to play. This is Salem the game, and we have been speaking with developer
Marp Tarpton. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for talking.